Hello YouTube and welcome back to my channel. Once again, this is my series that I'm creating about trading. More focused on trading with only a certain amount of money. This is more of a progressional sort of series. So a lot of the videos that you find online, people are trading with tens of thousands of dollars in their portfolio. And while that is inspiring, it can be disheartening for people who are just getting into it, who might not have that much money to sort of spare. And since that happens to be me at this time, I thought, you know what, why not make a series, to show new traders that they're not alone and that they shouldn't be discouraged if they're not seeing the kind of profits that they thought they would make. This is a game. It is pay to play in a way. What you put into it, you can get out of it. And a lot of the times, you'll see people, like I said, tens of thousands of dollars. They'll buy like 2,000 shares and make, 100, 200 off of that share in one day. But when you're new, you might make five. So it can be quite disheartening. But I promise if you stay in it and you just keep your nose to the grind, it will pay off. So I made this series to kind of document that and document the process, and at the same time maybe help some new traders out. Once again, I'm not a professional. I don't want you to take any stocks that I am investing in as a sure thing. I don't want you to assume that, just by watching this, you'll get rich. Of course, obviously, by the time you do watch this, these charts will be significantly different, the prices will be different, and so on and so forth. If anyone watches this at all, it could just be me. But that being said, I wanted to go over the stocks that I had, what I was trading, and where I am now. So first off, I did get the funds from my Robinhood account transferred over to TD Ameritrade. It still hasn't been taken out of my bank yet, though, so that is kind of odd. But it is letting me trade the money, I guess, sort of in a way as a credit. But anyway, so it is allowing me to trade with it now, and I just wanted to go over some of what I've done. Now, if I go over to monitor, you won't see BGG here anymore. This is a daily sort of chart right here. It says what you owe or what you own and, the movement on that. So I did have BGG. I ended up selling that at around $2 profit, something like that. And then with the extra money I got DIV and I got NIO. So DIV, let's get this right here. Now, I got DIV because on the 1 year chart you can see that it is slowly but surely constantly making higher highs and higher lows. So it has been going up quite well. We did see a downturn. I did lose a little bit of money in it, only about 12 cents. Once again, one of the benefits of not having a lot of money in the beginning, because you're going to be trying to be getting used to it, and you're not really going to worry about a dime and 2 pennies. So I have lost 12 cents, no big deal. That's only like a couple cents a share. And in fact, come to think of it, it's more like a penny a share. So it barely has moved. Now, it has dropped under the EMA on the 1 day chart. So that's slightly concerning, but we've seen that it's done it before, and it's come back up and it hits it as a resistance. So I'm not too alarmed with that. As far as the 5 day, it's still riding above the EMA line, and it looks like it has been increasing in value for at least 4 days now on average. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, make sure it stays above the EMA, and I set my stop loss down here at 1585. Or no, let's go up here. It'll show where our stance is. You can see here it's showing where my stop limit is. There it is, 1414. So I stand to lose roughly $1.20 per share should it get that bad. The reason I set it this low is because you can see right here where this is the new low right down here, and that is at 1459. So essentially what I wanted to do is I wanted to set it below that, so that way if I see that it has dropped below that point, I know that it's now making lower lows, meaning that this upward trend that we see is no longer in effect. It is now in fact reversing. And so at that point, I want to go ahead and cut my losses with this stock and just collect it and reinvest that money somewhere else. So that's why I went with that. It is currently the only one that I own at this moment. I'm going to be shopping around here later tonight and hopefully get a good position when the markets open up. But I had that. Now, like I said, BGG, I made about a $2 profit off of it. Nothing to, write home for, but it is, money's money, and it will help further on down the road. Another thing that I did was I had NIO, and this was actually quite a shame. Let me explain why. Okay, so NIO has been going really steadily up, especially gaining a lot of momentum here in the past few weeks or months. I mean, it's just been rocketing. And in fact, I have a friend who got into NIO not too terribly long ago, and just the other day he was able to make a trade, got him like $1,300. So, but he has a lot more to play with, obviously. But it has been steady. It has been going up, and we were watching it as it had just about opened, and then as soon as it opened, it dropped right below the EMA line. Now, when he was saying it's going down, I wasn't able to see it. I was like, "What numbers are you talking about?" I'm over here. I'm watching like where people are wanting to buy it at, where people are wanting to sell it at, and the numbers he was rattling off were not on my screen, and we were looking at the same exact screen. This is the same friend who helped me set up this. And I looked over here and I realized that my market data was delayed in stock and equity. It had a 20-minute delay, and this is significant because had I noticed, I would have been able to sell well before when I actually did, which was actually like down here, I think is where it broke my stop loss. And the reason why it got away from me is I was trying to figure out how I'm going to get my market data in real time. And at the time, also, just as more information here, at the time it wasn't letting me trade with my $900 that was supposed to be transferred over. It was still showing that I only had 46 bucks. And so my buy option, I figured it was just going to run out until I actually got that the money into TD Ameritrade. I thought that it would just time out, or it would be voided because I don't have the necessary funds. So I didn't figure it was a big deal. I had already planned to cancel the trades that I had already set up until I had my buying power. So I decided that what I would do during this time is figure out how to get my data to real time. And I want to go over how to do that for you guys. The reason why this is important is because the delay is 20 minutes. And 20 minutes can make a massive difference. It could be the difference between selling here and winding up here. Right? Like you thought you got in at this price, or maybe that's where you put in your bid for. The bid gets accepted, but by the time you actually see what's going on, it's actually all the way down here. You just overpaid for your stock. And the same thing goes for selling. You might see that you're up here and you want to sell, and that's where you put it in, but by the time you actually see the data, the price is all the way down here. You're not going to be able to sell it for that. So that's a big problem. So I wanted to fix that, and so what I did is I looked up how to do it. My friend mentioned contacting the help desk, but if I really don't like making calls if I can figure out how to do it on my own. So I just did a quick Google search, and it took me to a YouTube video where he goes over how to change this to real time. So that way, as the information's coming out, it's showing up on my screen. And now it's important to note that the closer that you are, the fastest internet you have, the more, what should I say, accurate data will be displayed. That's why a lot of people who trade stocks and stuff like that with tons of volume work as close as they can to where this information's coming out, because the algorithms that they run are very fine-tuned, and so the faster they can get that data, the faster they can perform the action that they're designed to perform, and it can increase your productivity significantly. So it's great to have the fastest time delay that you can. So real time is obviously where we want to be. So what you do is you go to tdameritrade.com and you sign into your account. I have changed my screen name here. It's just a nickname. I just did that for anonymity purposes. You can see here is where my Robinhood money came out. So I put the 900 into this, so now I'm at 935. So you go here. Then you're going to go to my profile, general. You want to make sure that all of these are signed. Now when you do that, you're going to go over to subscriptions. Real-time NASDAQ. I don't know why it's not showing as subscribed, because as you can tell, it is all real-time now. There is no delay. But it is a free service. I think you just have what you actually have to do is you have to fill out some forms. Now I'm not going to click on subscribe now just in case it messes mine up. But what you would do is you would click that, and it's going to bring you to another page. And you'll have two things that you have to open up and sign. It's a user agreement sort of documents, and there's two of them. They're in green. They're right there in the middle of the page. You'll see them. And then there's a, I acknowledge the terms and conditions, blah, blah, blah. You check that, you hit save. Now, it's important. The first link there, all you have to do is open it. I would keep it open. And then on the second form, what you're going to want to do is right-click, open a new tab, so it doesn't overwrite the first form. And you have to fill out stuff on that form. You'll have a couple boxes to click. It'll ask you if you are, using it for any professional reasons, like do you work for a company, are you giving trading advice, so on and so forth. It'll ask you where you work, what your occupation there is, the duties that you have. It'll ask you where you live and what address your employment is. You fill that out, you check the few boxes, and it doesn't have a save option. I just left it open. And so once that's done, you go back over to the main page and you click I acknowledge and then save. And it'll bring you back to your account. So general. It'll bring you back to this page, and it'll say you have updated your permissions or something like that. You have updated, and then the video I watched, he went back to subscriptions, and it showed the real time underneath the subscriptions. Mine never did that. I probably filled out those forms like 4 or 5 times before I said, you know what, forget it. I'm done with it. Let me just launch TD Ameritrade again and see what's going on here. So I exited out of Thinkertrade. I relaunched it, and sure enough, it had worked. For some reason, it kept telling me that I need to update my permissions, or I need to update, whatever, I need to fill out those forms. And every time I would fill out those forms, I'd click subscribe. Oh, nope, you still need to fill out the form. So I got really frustrated with it. But it looks like it went through. So that's all you gotta do. Just go to your main page, go to your general, go to subscriptions, click on that, and then it'll redirect you or give you a link anyway to the page that you fill that stuff out. It's real simple, real easy. I didn't even have to call help desk. A lot of people were saying that, oh yeah, you have to fill out those forms, you have to subscribe, and then you have to reach out. I never had to reach out. It's just obvious. It's obviously buggy. It's obviously not saying that I'm subscribed, but sure enough, it's working. I didn't have to reach out, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So I saw that it was working, yay, and I came in at my monitor, and I noticed I was in the negative for INO, or NIO, like, real bad. I think it was $10 or $8 at the time. Which, I mean, obviously, once again, ooh, big deal, right? $8. But, when you're starting out, it still sucks to lose anything. So yeah, so I did that. I saw that I was in the negative, and I was like, okay, what the heck's going on? And it showed that my sell had went through. That all of a sudden I have shares under NIO. Now, once again, this is DIV, but this is the same sort of screen, right? It just had NIO here, how many shares I had, the trade price, the mark, how much it had changed, and I thought, what in the heck's going on? And then I noticed that, sure enough, my money finally hit. So it was just for me focusing too much on trying to get this real-time thing here that I ended up losing money on that. Once again, I came in here, that's where I set my buy because I was expecting it to continue to rise, and it started falling. I wasn't expecting for the buy order to even go through, just because at the time my money wasn't in my account. So yeah, so that sucked. And by the time it got, let's see here, I set my stop price, and it broke it somewhere around here. So that was a shame. It did rebound a little bit, and now it looks like it's using the MAO or the EMA line as a sort of resistance. It's above it, it's below it, it's above it, it's below it. It's just kind of riding, and then it shot up. So we'll see where it goes. I might get in on it if it starts showing that the trend is going to continue, that we're going to see higher highs and higher lows. And if that's the case, then I'll reinvest in it. But when I'm looking at larger charts like this 1 year, or perhaps the there you go, the 180. It's just it's when I see a massive spike like that, I never feel confident. And that's just because I've seen, a lot of the times, especially when I was first getting into it, I'd see that it's going up and it, gets even, and then it goes up, and then it goes down, but it gets even, and then it goes up again, and it's just skyrocketing. And I'd get in on it, and as soon as I would, man, that thing would plummet. But that's before I even knew how to use TD Ameritrade. That's before I even got to see the EMA and the RSI. By the way, this RSI is a fantastic study to have. To get it, you go to your studies, type in RSI, click it, and then click Add Selected, and it'll move it right over here. If you're in this screen, if this is the kind of setup you have to do it for every single one. But if you're just using your regular chart, this is what it'll look like. You have the single shingle stock, the volume. This is the moving average that I have. It's kind of nice to check sort of where the volume is for the buys and the volume is for the sells. So that's always handy to have. But this right here, the RSI, is something that I've always found really great. So these are overbought when it crosses this line here, it crosses this threshold, it's overbought. When it crosses under it, it's oversold. And I know that it seemed like, for me, it just took a while to get used to that, because I would think, oh, buy low, sell high, right? But it's not. It's actually the complete opposite. And I'll show you what I mean. So let's take this specific example right here. Like, it started out at 285 ish, 292, and then we see this massive drop. People are selling it off. And here you see that it starts oversold. It reached the threshold. It got to this point right here. This is at the tippy top where it's being oversold. And then we start seeing it come back up. Right here, once again, if you trace that white line all the way down, you'll see that that's at the tippy top of where it's being oversold. Now, it can be oversold more than that. But generally speaking, this will give you a good idea as to how much we see like the movement in the stock. And so we see it starting to go back up. Like, once it's oversold, you can pretty much guarantee that it's going to start going up. Now, I don't want to say, oh yeah, you can guarantee it. I want to say pretty much, because once again, there's never a sure thing. But this is just a good indicator. Now, right here, we see this massive spike in buys, right? And once again, it's reflected on the RSI. So I believe the way that it's working is the RSI is seeing an abnormal amount of buys for what the value of the stock is. And then the buys are kind of losing out here. You can see where it's dipping down. So we could see that right now would probably not be a great time to get in it, because it's likely going to fall. Or at least that's how I would interpret it. And then, of course, we see it's here. We see people start buying it again, and it's still pretty close to that overbought line. And sure enough, it had enough momentum. People are buying, tons of volume buying. It reaches over that threshold, and that's when things start getting rejected. Sells are coming out. You're going to see that downtrend, and we're tracking it right here. Now, over here, this would be a good example of when to come in. So keep in mind that you wouldn't be able to see anything from this side of the chart to, off to the right. Like, this is all you would see. So imagine that everything to the right of my cursor here is blank. That's the end of your screen. Now here we see that it's getting really close to being oversold. Oversold. And we know that this line generally will act as a resistance as to when things turn around. So this would be when I would want to invest. And once again, tracking it this way, we would see that there are, let me bring up, so yeah, okay. Bring it back down to the 1 year. Alright, so this is where I would want to get in. It had a pretty steady rise for the past, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And then it went pretty steady for about another month. And we see here during this rise that it never got to the overbought sort of margin. It got close, and then it died down. It got close, died down, and that's where we started seeing it all go haywire. So if I'm getting in here, that's when I'm going to start thinking this is a good place to be at. Now, you might want to wait until it gets oversold to buy, and that way you could really get it at the lowest. But just seeing that trend, knowing that it's getting close, that's when I'd start paying attention. And sure enough, that was the right time to get in it because it just started making higher highs again. Now, of course, this is the 1 year chart. So this is why patience is also a very important thing. Generally speaking, for a beginner trader, first as a beginner trader, you can only do so many day trades, as I mentioned in my first video. And secondly, what you really want to try and turn as much profit as possible, uh, especially during that first little bit, because you want to build up that portfolio, and you can do that by making more and more trades. You can do that by supplementing in income from your job. You could, either way that you're building up that portfolio, because that's your momentum to make money. So let's say I got in here and I see that it's being oversold. This might have taken the course of, what is it, 318. So that's over the course of the day. This would have been a terrible day for me. But if I was patient enough, and more patient, and more patient, it'd be dollar signs. It'd be dollar signs like crazy. That would be the 283 to 744 high. So that would mean a butt ton of money. And it's just how you might want to do it is maybe once it finally got back, that's when you'd want to sell. Maybe you'd want to just wait. It really is just your personal preference as to what you want to do with stocks. But anyway, I'm kind of blabbering on. This isn't the best example to use because NIO is pretty volatile. But I hope I explained it in a way that kind of makes sense. Uh, as far as tracking the RSI, I highly recommend doing that just so that you can tell if things are getting oversold, and it'll really give you a decent indicator as to what we should expect in the near future here. But anyway, so that's been my second video. Like I said, tonight I'm about to start researching some more companies and try and find myself another trade to be in. Oh, by the way, another good tip, another thing that I'm monitoring, the scan. Have stock to last, 2 minute to 20 minute, and the volume from 1 million to 20 million. So what this does is it makes sure that there's going to be a lot of movement on the stocks that I'm looking for. You just hit scan. It doesn't look like there's any matching symbols at this moment, but that's probably because it's still really early. It's like 5.5 hours, or actually that's 6 hours away from the market opening. So as it gets closer, you would just hit scan and it'll give you a list of companies that match that, or tickers that match that. That's one way to do it. And also, let me share this information with you guys. This is something that's going to be very helpful. New folder. Finviz. Look at all this information. One thing that I really enjoyed, going to channel up. Now you see here, here's the tickers that you're looking for. And essentially, this is a 1 year chart, or, well, let's see here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 10-month chart, and it's showing you what we're seeing is reversals, right? Like this stock plummeted from 420 all the way down to 240, and ever since then, over the course of the past 3 months, it has had a consistent upward trend. So here's the lower lows, right? Higher highs. and this drop off, this barely makes it higher than the than the other one, just by like a hair. But that is what we're seeing. We are seeing an overall trend where it's going up. So this will give you, and you can see on the right hand side, they've got the prices there. So if you have a certain price range for the stock that you're wanting to invest in, then that's what, then you can see that here. So like $400 a share, I'm not getting into that. I could, and maybe it has a lot of movement. Maybe I start here in the beginning of the month, wait 30 days. What would that have been? That would have been six. That would have been like 100, something like that. 592, I believe is what that says. So yeah, that would have been nearly $100 profit right there in that first month, if I only had the one. Now, if you have more money than that, you can be making a lot more. But we're trading low here. So here's one for 15. Here's one for 17. Here's one for $5. You're not going to see a huge amount of change, right? Maybe just a dollar or two. But if you're able to buy 40 shares, 50 shares, you're looking at making a good bit of money. And right down here, you have the different charts. So you can move on to the second page and so on and so forth. You can browse around. It's a really helpful website. I just discovered it the other day, so I myself am still getting used to it. Once again, that's what this whole series is about, figuring out things as we go along, trying to help each other out, and just documenting where we're at and what we're looking at and the trends we're trying to find, talking about studies. Once again, check out the RSI. I think that that's a helpful tool for anyone to have. So we'll look at some stocks and we'll figure it out later. And I'll update you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.